What if the very people who claim to have your best interests at heart, who celebrate your milestones, who share your last name, are actually the architects of your deepest prisons? It's a question that feels almost sacrilegious to ask, a thought that many suppress as quickly as it arises. We're taught that family is a sanctuary, a haven of unconditional love and support. But what if that cherished belief is, for you, a meticulously constructed illusion designed to keep you precisely where the narcissistic family member wants you, under their thumb, serving their insatiable need for admiration and control? Consider this chilling, uncomfortable truth. While we often associate manipulation with strangers in high-stakes corporate boardrooms or shadowy political arenas, the most pervasive, damaging, and tragically overlooked forms often hide in plain sight, right within your own home. Psychologists estimate that a significant portion of individuals struggle with the hidden emotional scars left by family members who operate with a profound lack of empathy, an insatiable need for control, and a grandiosity that casts a long shadow over everyone around them. This isn't the overt, easily identifiable abuse you might see portrayed in Hollywood dramas. It's a far more insidious, subtle form of psychological warfare that goes unrecognized for decades, slowly eroding your self-worth and hijacking your entire sense of self. You, the protagonist, might be living this reality right now. You feel a persistent unease, a nagging sense that something isn't quite right, a pervasive weight that you can't quite name. You constantly find yourself second-guessing your memories, apologizing for things you didn't do, or feeling perpetually guilty simply for existing outside of someone else's expectations. This isn't just family drama or tough love. It's a strategic, often unconscious, assault on your autonomy, carefully orchestrated by the narcissistic family member and often enabled by others, the enabler, who consciously or unconsciously facilitate or excuse the manipulator's behavior, often out of fear, denial, or their own unresolved issues. Imagine yourself as a meticulously crafted marionette. From the outside, to your friends, colleagues, and even yourself, you appear to be moving freely, making your own choices, navigating your own life with agency and purpose. But look closely beyond the surface. There are invisible strings, pulled by unseen hands, the hands of the manipulator. Every step you take, every word you speak, every major life decision feels subtly guided, influenced, or even dictated by their unspoken expectations, their emotional demands, their constant need for attention and validation. You might not physically see the strings, but you feel the constant tug, the constraint, the way your authentic self is subtly contorted to fit their narrative, to fulfill their emotional needs, to maintain their fragile sense of superiority. This psychological puppetry isn't confined to grand, dramatic confrontations. It infiltrates every corner of your existence. It's evident at family gatherings, those quintessential battlegrounds where manipulative tactics often become most glaringly obvious. Think of a tense Thanksgiving dinner where a backhanded compliment cuts deeper than any insult, or a routine holiday visit where your achievements are minimized with a dismissive wave. But it extends far beyond these public performances, seeping into the intimate, emotionally charged spaces of personal interactions. Those one-on-one phone calls that leave you drained and questioning your sanity. The passive-aggressive text messages that sow seeds of guilt, or direct confrontations where your reality is dismissed, distorted, or outright denied through gaslighting. The insidious nature of this manipulation means it infiltrates your inner sanctum, the very core of your thoughts and emotions. It plants seeds of self-doubt so deep they feel like innate flaws, fuels internal conflicts that leave you perpetually exhausted, and makes the struggle for personal agency feel like an uphill battle against an invisible, omnipresent force. You might find yourself constantly seeking external validation, particularly from the manipulator, unaware that this very pursuit is the fuel for their control. You've been conditioned to believe that your worth is tied to their approval, making their disapproval feel like a catastrophic personal failure. For years, you might have rationalized their behavior, excusing it with phrases like, "Oh, that's just Aunt Carol. She means well," or "Dad's just old-fashioned. He's from a different generation." You've probably absorbed the pervasive American cultural narrative that family means unconditional acceptance, loyalty above all else, and a sacred bond that must be preserved at any cost. Even when that acceptance feels more like a chokehold, that loyalty is one-sided, and that sacred bond is actively poisoning your spirit. You're taught to respect your elders, to forgive, to keep the peace. But what if keeping that peace means sacrificing your own peace of mind, your own identity, your very sanity? What if the constant need to please, to appease, to perform for the narcissistic family member has left you feeling like a shadow of your true self, perpetually exhausted, anxious, and deeply inadequate? This profound impact of invisible captivity touches every aspect of your existence, from your career choices to your romantic relationships, from your self-esteem to your ability to truly thrive and experience genuine joy. You might feel a constant pressure, a heavy, unnamed weight that dictates your decisions and dampens your spirit, preventing you from ever fully realizing your potential. This isn't just about feeling unhappy. It's about being systematically disarmed of your personal power, your ability to define your own life, and your right to emotional freedom. The very foundation of your identity has been subtly undermined, leaving you vulnerable and dependent on the very source of your pain. This video is not just going to expose these hidden truths that have held you captive. It's going to hand you the powerful shears to cut those invisible strings once and for all. It's going to provide you, the protagonist, with a radical, liberating perspective, confident nihilism, a robust psychological toolkit, and the unwavering self-assurance you need to reclaim your autonomy, protect your mental well-being, and forge a life defined by your own values, independent of familial control. We're going to dive deep into the mechanics of this insidious control, revealing precisely how the manipulator operates, how the enabler often unknowingly facilitates their behavior, and most importantly, how you can systematically dismantle their power over you. So, as you sit there watching this, I want you to honestly reflect on your most intimate relationships. Do you truly feel free to be your authentic self, to pursue your own dreams without guilt, to set boundaries without fear of reprisal? That elusive sense of freedom, the ability to simply exist as your authentic self without an invisible weight, often remains just out of reach for the protagonist, haunted by the very people who should be their greatest champions. It's a subtle, insidious erosion of self, a gradual chipping away at your confidence that often goes unnoticed until the damage is profound. You might find yourself caught in a familiar, agonizing loop, a psychological echo chamber where every interaction, every phone call, every family gathering reverberates with the same painful themes. Perhaps you've spent years feeling perpetually guilty, as if an unspoken accusation hangs over your head, forcing you to constantly apologize for things you didn't do, for feelings you didn't express, or even for simply existing in a way that doesn't perfectly align with someone else's expectations. Think about those moments when you've shared a personal triumph, an achievement you worked tirelessly for, only to have it met with a dismissive comment, a backhanded compliment, or an immediate redirection of the conversation back to the narcissistic family member's own perceived successes or misfortunes. Your college graduation, a promotion at work, the joy of a new relationship, all minimized, diluted, or even subtly co-opted. That's nice, but remember when I did X? Or, you're just lucky, it's not as hard as my struggle was. This isn't just a casual oversight. It's a deliberate tactic to ensure that your light never outshines theirs, keeping the protagonist in a perpetual state of striving for an approval that will never truly come. Then there's the disorienting fog of gaslighting, a tactic so insidious it makes you question the very fabric of your reality. You remember an event clearly, a conversation, a promise made, only to be told, that never happened. You're imagining things, or you're too sensitive. I never said that. Over time, this relentless assault on your memory and perception can make you doubt your own sanity, making it incredibly difficult to trust your instincts or stand firm in your convictions. The manipulator plants seeds of confusion, cultivating an environment where the protagonist constantly second-guesses themselves, making them even more susceptible to control. The enabler, often present in these exchanges, might chime in with a placating, "Oh, you know how mom/dad is," or "let's not make a big deal out of it," further invalidating your experience and subtly reinforcing the manipulator's narrative. The emotional toll of living under such conditions is devastating, a constant, gnawing anxiety that hums beneath the surface of your daily life. You might wake up with a sense of dread, dreading the next text message, the next phone call, the next forced family gathering. Self-doubt becomes a constant companion, whispering that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not lovable enough, echoing the very criticisms the manipulator has subtly or overtly impressed upon you. There's a pervasive sense of inadequacy, a feeling that no matter what you do, it will never be enough to earn the unconditional love or respect you crave. And perhaps most exhausting of all is the relentless effort to please, to walk on eggshells, to anticipate every mood swing and cater to every whim of the narcissistic family member, all in a desperate, futile attempt to avoid conflict or earn a fleeting moment of approval. These patterns, tragically, often become normalized within dysfunctional families. For the protagonist, growing up with this dynamic means it's simply how family is. You hear phrases like, "That's just how Aunt Carol is, she means well," or "you know Grandpa's old-fashioned, don't take it to heart." These well-meaning, or sometimes self-preserving, excuses from the enabler create an invisible cage, making it incredibly difficult for the protagonist to recognize the abuse for what it truly is. It's not just family drama or personality clashes. It's a strategic, calculated assault on your self-worth, your identity, and your emotional well-being. It is a system designed to keep you beholden, to maintain control, and to feed the manipulator's insatiable need for validation and power. You're not alone if you feel like you're constantly fighting an invisible battle, if your energy feels drained after a simple family dinner, or if you carry a heavy burden of guilt that doesn't logically belong to you. This isn't a sign of weakness. It's a testament to the sheer psychological warfare you've been subjected to. Your feelings are valid. Your experiences are real. It's crucial to understand that the confusion, the anxiety, the self-doubt, these are not inherent flaws within you. They are the direct, predictable consequences of persistent, manipulative behavior. This is the echo chamber of pain, a reality meticulously crafted by the narcissistic family member, often with the unwitting assistance of the enabler, to keep the protagonist tethered to their narrative. But recognizing this truth, truly seeing the patterns and acknowledging the damage, is not just a moment of despair. It is the crucial first step towards healing, towards reclaiming the authentic self that has been buried under layers of manipulation. So, take a deep breath and allow yourself to truly feel this moment of recognition. You are acknowledging your pain, and that is the first brave step towards your liberation. But how do you break free when the bonds are so deeply ingrained, when the manipulation has shaped your very identity, when the expectations feel like unbreakable chains forged over decades? How do you dismantle a system that feels like the very foundation of your existence? The answer isn't found in traditional advice, in trying to reason with the unreasonable, or in simply getting over it. It requires a radical shift in perspective, a fundamental reevaluation of what you owe to others, and most importantly, what you owe to yourself. The path to freedom demands a new lens through which to view your life, a powerful philosophy that empowers you to redefine your reality. But how do you redefine a reality that has been relentlessly shaped by someone else's agenda? A reality where your very sense of self has been warped by the insidious influence of a narcissistic family member. The immense difficulty of breaking free from familial manipulation is precisely why traditional advice often falls short. Well-meaning suggestions like "just talk it out, try to understand their perspective," or "forgive and move on" are often not just ineffective, but actively harmful when dealing with a deeply ingrained narcissistic dynamic. These conventional approaches fail because they don't address the fundamental, toxic power imbalance at play. They assume a level of empathy, reciprocity, and a shared desire for healthy connection that the manipulator simply does not possess. The narcissistic family member thrives on power, control, and an insatiable need for external validation, often at your expense. They see every interaction as an opportunity to reinforce their dominance and extract emotional supply, whether it's through praise, fear, or your frustration. To ask them to respect your boundaries or acknowledge your feelings is often like speaking a foreign language they refuse to learn. This is why trying to apply rational, empathetic solutions to an irrational, self-serving problem leaves the protagonist feeling even more drained, more confused, and ultimately more manipulated. You end up blaming yourself when their behavior doesn't change, internalizing their dysfunction as your own failure. It's a vicious cycle that conventional wisdom, designed for healthy relationships, cannot penetrate. This is where we introduce a truly radical, profoundly liberating truth: confident nihilism. Now, before you recoil at the term, understand that this isn't about embracing despair, cynicism, or believing that nothing matters in a destructive, apathetic way. Quite the opposite. Confident nihilism is a philosophy of ultimate liberation, a powerful antidote to the psychological chains that bind you. It posits that the universe, on its own, does not assign inherent meaning or value to your life, your relationships, or your suffering. There is no grand cosmic rulebook dictating that you must endure endless manipulation, or that family bonds, simply by virtue of blood, must always be preserved at the cost of your mental health and personal sovereignty. This realization, far from being bleak, is incredibly empowering. If there's no inherent meaning, no preordained destiny, no cosmic ledger you're beholden to, then you are absolutely, unequivocally free to create your own meaning. You get to define your values, your self-worth, and crucially, your boundaries, especially in relationships where others have relentlessly tried to impose their narrative and their definition of who you are and what you owe them. This freedom allows you to shed the crushing weight of external expectations and the guilt trips designed to keep you subservient. You're not a character in the manipulator's play. You are the author of your own life story. This perspective aligns powerfully with ancient Stoic wisdom, a philosophy championed by Roman emperors and slaves alike, whose teachings still resonate today, from Wall Street boardrooms to Silicon Valley startups. Stoicism teaches us to discern with unflinching clarity between what is within our control and what is not. The manipulator's actions, their words, their attempts to gaslight, belittle, or guilt-trip you, these are entirely outside your control. You cannot force them to change, to empathize, or to suddenly become a decent, supportive human being. That is their path, their burden. But what is undeniably within your control? Your reactions, your choices, your internal landscape, your boundaries, your peace, your definition of success and happiness. As the great Stoic philosopher Epictetus wisely taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This isn't about becoming emotionless or cold. It's about strategically choosing your emotional responses, understanding that your inner freedom is the ultimate prize and no external force, especially not the manipulator, can take that from you without your explicit consent. They can throw their darts, but you decide if they penetrate your shield. Confident nihilism provides the protagonist with the intellectual and emotional leverage to finally detach from the manipulator's suffocating narrative, to stop playing by their twisted rules, and to recognize their game for what it is. It allows you to see their grandiosity, their profound lack of empathy, their insatiable need for control, not as a reflection of your inadequacy or failure, but as a tragic, often pathetic, flaw within them. You are no longer obligated to accept the roles they've assigned you: the scapegoat, the golden child, the eternal caregiver, the perpetual disappointment. You are free to shed those labels like old, ill-fitting clothes and reclaim your personal agency, your authentic self. This philosophy is the ultimate permission slip to put yourself first, to prioritize your mental well-being, and to build a life that resonates with your authentic self, not the distorted, manipulative image the narcissistic family member has tried to project onto you. Imagine the sheer liberation of realizing that their opinion of you holds precisely zero weight unless you consciously choose to grant it power. Their judgments, their criticisms, their attempts to diminish you become like background noise in a bustling city, present, but utterly irrelevant to your journey. So, I challenge you now, the protagonist, truly consider what your life would look like, what decisions you would make, what relationships you would cultivate or distance yourself from if you genuinely believe that your self-worth was not tied to any external validation, especially not the conditional, manipulative love or approval from the narcissistic family member. What if you understood, deep in your bones, that their judgment is irrelevant to your inherent value as a human being? What if you truly felt free to define your own success, your own happiness, and your own path, independent of their constant critiques, their subtle sabotage, or their overt attempts to control your destiny? This isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's the radical shift in perspective that will serve as the unwavering intellectual cornerstone for every single practical strategy we're about to unveil. It's the moment you stop asking for permission to live your own life and start simply living it. This radical shift in perspective isn't just about refusing to ask for permission. It's about actively designing the life you truly desire, brick by independent brick. To truly liberate yourself from the unseen chains of manipulation, you must embrace your inherent agency, stepping fully into the role of the architect of your own reality. This isn't a passive acceptance of freedom. It's an active, deliberate construction of a life defined by your values, your passions, and your unwavering internal compass. The narcissistic family member, along with the enabler, thrives on a very specific kind of fuel: your belief in external validation. They need you to think that their approval, their judgment, their version of what's right for you holds ultimate authority. They feed off the deeply ingrained societal narrative that family bonds are inherently sacred and unbreakable, even when those bonds are toxic, suffocating, and destructive. This belief system, often reinforced from childhood, creates a psychological trap, making you feel perpetually obligated to their narrative, their expectations, and their control. Think of every family gathering, every holiday dinner, every phone call where you felt compelled to perform, to justify, or to shrink yourself to fit their mold. That's the insidious power of their imposed reality. Confident nihilism shatters this illusion of obligation. It teaches you that since life itself has no intrinsic, universal meaning, you are absolutely not beholden to anyone else's imposed meaning, values, or role. You are not a character in their story. You are the protagonist of your own, and you have the power to rewrite the script entirely. This philosophical stance isn't about being rebellious for the sake of it, but about recognizing your fundamental freedom to define your own existence. It frees you from the crushing weight of their expectations, allowing you to breathe, to choose, and to create without the constant shadow of their judgment looming over you. Consider the dynamic through a chess metaphor, a game of strategy and control that many Americans understand well. The narcissistic family member sees themselves as the grandmaster, meticulously moving their pieces, including you, across the board. They orchestrate scenarios at family gatherings, deploy emotional ploys in personal interactions, and subtly dictate your perceived moves, all designed to maintain their dominance and secure their desired outcome. They expect you to play by their rules, to react predictably to their provocations, and to remain within the confines of the roles they've assigned you. Perhaps the problem child, the family savior, or the eternal disappointment. But confident nihilism hands you the power to do something truly disruptive. You can flip the board entirely. This isn't about engaging in a futile battle over their pieces or trying to win their game. It's about refusing to play by their rules, recognizing that you're not a pawn, nor are you bound by the game they've set up. Flipping the board means asserting that your game, your life, operates on different principles entirely. It means choosing your own values, defining your own success, and Most critically, determining your own emotional responses rather than being a puppet reacting to their every pull and push. The existentialist philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre famously articulated this profound truth. Man is condemned to be free, because once thrown into the world, he is responsible for everything he does. This isn't a curse, but an immense liberation. It means that you, the protagonist, are not merely a product of your family history or the circumstances handed to you. You are the author of your future, compelled by your own freedom to forge your path and imbue your life with your chosen significance. This responsibility, this condemnation to freedom, becomes your greatest strength against the manipulator who thrives on your perceived lack of choice. Now, let's engage in some critical thought exercises to illuminate where you might have unconsciously ceded control. Take a moment to reflect on your life choices. Have you ever pursued a career path that felt right to your family, even if it didn't align with your deepest passions? Perhaps you chose a major in college or even a city to live in based on unspoken expectations rather than genuine desire. Think about your relationships. Do you find yourself defending your partners or friends against subtle criticisms from the narcissistic family member, or perhaps even choosing partners who subconsciously mirror their approval? Consider your personal style, your hobbies, even your political views. How much of what you present to the world is an authentic expression of who you are, and how much is a carefully curated performance designed to avoid conflict or earn a fleeting moment of approval from the manipulator or the enabler? This isn't about shame. It's about honest self-assessment. It's about identifying the invisible threads that still connect you to their loom, dictating the patterns of your tapestry. Recognizing these areas is the crucial first step toward reclaiming your sovereignty. Now, begin to envision a life where every choice is driven by your internal compass, not external pressure. Imagine making decisions about your career, your relationships, your finances, even how you spend your free time, purely based on what brings you fulfillment, peace, and joy. Picture a Thanksgiving dinner where you genuinely enjoy the company you keep or confidently decline an invitation without a pang of guilt. Envision a personal interaction where the manipulator's attempts to provoke you simply bounce off, leaving you emotionally untouched because your self-worth is an unyielding core impervious to their barbs. This is the promise of embracing your agency through confident nihilism, a life where you are the undisputed sovereign of your own existence. No longer a chess piece, no longer a puppet, but the master artisan crafting your destiny. It requires courage, yes, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, but the reward is unparalleled freedom and an authentic sense of self. This isn't just about surviving. It's about thriving on your own terms, building a masterpiece of a life that is uniquely, unapologetically yours. To begin this transformative journey, to truly commit to this new mindset, we invite you to take the first step right now. In the comments below, declare your intention, solidify your resolve. Join us in affirming this fundamental truth, engraving it into your consciousness and into the collective spirit of this community. I choose to be the architect of my own life, starting today. Becoming the architect of your own reality demands more than just a declaration. It requires a new set of tools, sharp and precise, to dismantle the structures of manipulation that have held you captive. You've envisioned a life where your choices stem from an internal compass, not external pressure. But how do you actually build that life when a narcissistic family member consistently tries to demolish your foundations? The answer begins with a radical shift in your response, a foundational principle that will starve their insidious game: the stone wall of indifference. This isn't about being rude or abandoning your values. It's about strategic disengagement, a psychological maneuver designed to cut off the very lifeblood that fuels the narcissistic family member. Understand this critical truth. These manipulators thrive on your emotional reactions. They are emotional vampires, and every drop of anger, every tear of frustration, every desperate plea for understanding, and even your expressions of joy or success that they can twist into a competition, serves as sustenance. They crave to be the center of your emotional universe, to elicit a response, any response that reaffirms their perceived power and importance. Without your emotional feedback, their elaborate performance loses its audience, its purpose, its very reason for being. The wisdom for this approach isn't new. It echoes through centuries of philosophical thought. As the great Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius wisely observed, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This isn't just an abstract idea. It's a battlefield strategy for your inner peace. Your strength lies not in confronting every provocation head-on, but in refusing to let those external darts disturb your inner sanctum. The stone wall of indifference teaches you to cultivate a deliberate, calm unresponsiveness to their provocations, turning yourself into an emotional void where their manipulations simply cannot take root. The practical application of this principle is often referred to as the gray rock technique. Imagine yourself as a dull, uninteresting gray rock on the ground. You offer no sparkle, no shimmer, no enticing facets for the manipulator to latch onto. When they attempt to engage you with drama, criticism, or thinly veiled insults, your response is minimal, neutral, and devoid of emotional charge. You become utterly uninteresting, offering the bare minimum of feedback required for basic social interaction, but nothing more. Let's paint a picture of this in action. Picture a typical family gathering, perhaps a holiday dinner, like Thanksgiving, where tensions can run high. The narcissistic family member, let's call them the manipulator, spots you across the table. They might launch a seemingly casual but cutting remark, something like, "Oh, still working at that same job? I thought you'd have moved up by now, considering how ambitious you always claim to be." In the past, this might have ignited a firestorm within you. You'd feel a rush of defensiveness, perhaps a knot in your stomach, and you'd launch into an explanation, trying to justify your career choices, or worse, snapping back with an equally sharp retort. You'd spend the rest of the evening replaying the interaction, feeling guilty, angry, or inadequate. But now, armed with the stone wall of indifference, your response is fundamentally different. You might pause, offer a polite but brief shrug, and say, "It's going well, thanks," before calmly turning your attention to the mashed potatoes or initiating a conversation with someone else about the upcoming NFL season. Or perhaps a simple, "That's certainly one way to look at it," delivered without a hint of sarcasm or anger, then shifting the topic to the latest blockbuster movie. You offer no emotional entry point, no dramatic reaction for the manipulator to feed on. You don't offend, you don't explain, and most importantly, you don't feel the need to. The contrast here is stark and powerful. The majority, caught in the traditional dance of family dynamics, react instinctively. They fuel the fire of the narcissistic family member's drama, inadvertently providing the very emotional supply that sustains the manipulation. They suffer the emotional toll, feeling drained, resentful, and constantly on edge. You, however, are choosing a different path. You respond with strategic detachment, effectively starving the manipulator of their desired emotional supply. Their cutting remark lands not on your vulnerable emotional core, but on an impenetrable stone wall, echoing back nothing but emptiness. Understand that this indifference is not a sign of weakness. It is, in fact, an incredibly powerful act of self-preservation. It is a strategic withdrawal of your most valuable resources, your attention, your emotional energy, and your peace of mind. By refusing to engage in their emotional games, you are reclaiming these resources for yourself, investing them in your own well-being and the genuine connections in your life. It's a conscious decision to disinvest from a toxic dynamic, to stop pouring your precious energy into a bottomless pit of need and control. Consistent application of the stone wall of indifference will, over time, erode the manipulator's power. When their usual tactics yield no reaction, no drama, no emotional payoff, they will find you less and less appealing as a target. They might escalate their efforts initially, trying harder to provoke a response, But if you hold firm, their efforts will eventually become exhausting and fruitless for them. They will either seek their emotional supply elsewhere, or they will, at least in your interactions, be forced to confront a frustrating void where they once found a wellspring of drama. It might feel unnatural at first, even counterintuitive, especially if you've been conditioned for years to react to the manipulator's every whim. You might worry about being perceived as cold or uncaring. But remember, this is a strategy for self-protection, not genuine apathy towards life or love. It is about their manipulative behavior, not your inherent warmth or capacity for connection. You are protecting your authentic self, the self that the narcissistic family member seeks to suppress and control. You are choosing peace over pandemonium and clarity over chaos. The goal isn't to change the manipulator, which is often an impossible feat, but to change your experience of them. It's about empowering yourself to exist in their presence without being consumed by their toxicity. It's about maintaining a polite but firm distance, a psychological buffer that allows you to observe their antics without internalizing their venom. This principle empowers you to step off the emotional roller coaster they so desperately want you to ride, allowing you to remain grounded and centered, no matter how turbulent their world becomes. Yet, achieving that steady calm requires more than just understanding the tactics of the manipulator. It demands a complete overhaul of your internal landscape, a journey we have now traversed together, principle by powerful principle. We began by lifting the veil on the unseen chains, acknowledging the insidious reality of being controlled without realizing it, a silent psychological siege waged within your very own family gatherings and personal interactions. We then bravely stepped into the echo chamber of pain, validating the chronic anxiety, the self-doubt, and the exhaustion that has been your constant companion in the inner sanctum. This recognition, though painful, was the critical first spark, igniting a desire for change that could no longer be extinguished. From that crucible of awareness, we introduced the radical truth, confident nihilism, not as a philosophy of despair, but as a profound declaration of liberation, asserting that in a universe devoid of inherent meaning, you possess the ultimate freedom to forge your own. This radical shift in perspective then became the bedrock upon which we built your new reality, allowing you to become the architect of your reality, reclaiming agency over your choices, your values, and your emotional responses. No longer were you a pawn on the manipulator's chessboard, but the sovereign commander of your own life. We then armed you with the practical strategies, each one a crucial tool in your arsenal for self-preservation. You learned to construct the stone wall of indifference, starving the narcissistic family member of the emotional supply they so desperately crave, turning their provocations into impotent whispers against your newfound calm. You mastered the unseen shield, an internal psychological buffer that allows you to observe their antics without internalizing them, maintaining your emotional equilibrium amidst their storms. This wasn't about becoming heartless, but about becoming strategic, understanding that your emotional energy is a finite, precious resource not to be squandered on those who seek to drain it. Then came the impenetrable border, teaching you the absolute necessity of setting clear, non-negotiable boundaries, protecting your mental and emotional space from their relentless incursions. You discovered the potent power of the strategic silence, weaponizing your absence not as a punishment, but as a clear, undeniable consequence for disrespect, demonstrating that your time and attention are valuable assets that must be earned. The mirror of truth equipped you with the ability to calmly reflect their distorted reality back at them, not to engage in their game, but to subtly disarm their tactics and solidify your own perception of reality. Most profoundly, we explored the unyielding core, the internal fortress of self-worth you cultivate through self-affirmation and self-compassion, making you immune to the manipulator's attempts to undermine your confidence. This was the ultimate freedom, the realization that your worth is inherent, unchangeable, and utterly independent of any external validation, especially from those who would weaponize it against you. And finally, we acknowledged the vital role of the strategic allies, the chosen network of support, friends, mentors, and therapists who reinforce your reality and stand with you as you navigate this journey, ensuring you never have to fight this battle alone. Now, as we stand at the precipice of this new understanding, consider the profound transformation that awaits you. Imagine a life where family gatherings are no longer minefields of anxiety, but simply gatherings that you navigate with calm confidence, choosing your level of engagement, knowing you can leave when your boundaries are tested. Picture personal interactions where you respond with clarity and conviction, rather than fear or obligation, where your voice is heard and your truth is upheld. Envision the inner sanctum, your mental and emotional landscape, no longer a battleground of self-doubt and chronic exhaustion, but a sanctuary of peace, resilience, and unshakable self-respect. This is not a distant fantasy. This is the reality you have systematically built, brick by brick, principle by principle, through the lens of confident nihilism. The path we've walked together has been one of profound self-discovery and empowerment. It's about recognizing that while the manipulator thrives on control and external validation, your strength lies in your ability to define your own meaning, to create your own values, and to live by your own rules, regardless of their attempts to dictate your existence. This philosophy liberates you from the insidious guilt, the crushing obligation, and the manufactured dependency that has kept you tethered for far too long. It is the ultimate act of self-care, a declaration that your mental well-being is paramount and your autonomy is sacred. You are no longer merely reacting to the whims of others. You are proactively crafting a life that resonates with your deepest self, a life where genuine connections flourish and toxic influences wither away. The choice, then, becomes strikingly clear. You can continue to be a pawn in someone else's game, forever chasing an elusive approval that will never truly satisfy, forever entangled in their emotional drama and distorted narratives. Or you can step into your power as the sovereign of your own existence, embracing the profound freedom that comes with recognizing your inherent worth and your absolute right to self-determination. This is not about revenge or becoming a manipulator yourself. As we discussed with the ethical compass, this knowledge is for protection, for liberation, and for building a life of integrity and authentic connection. It is about choosing peace over chaos, self-respect over self-sacrifice, and genuine joy over manufactured drama. Think of the vast expanse of your life, stretching out before you like an open road, no longer hemmed in by the manipulative fences of others. Man is condemned to be free. Jean-Paul Sartre once proclaimed, a seemingly paradoxical statement that, through the lens of confident nihilism, becomes an exhilarating truth. You're not bound by destiny or by the expectations of the narcissistic family member. You're free to choose, free to create, free to define your own path. This freedom is not a burden, but the greatest gift, the ultimate power to sculpt a life that truly reflects who you are, unburdened by the psychological chains that once held you captive. It is a call to courage, a summons to live authentically, and an invitation to finally step into the full, vibrant expression of your true self. The time for hesitation is over. The moment for action is now. You have acquired the knowledge. You possess the tools. The journey to reclaim your life, to assert your declaration of independence from manipulative forces, begins with a single, conscious choice. If this video resonated with you, if the truths we've uncovered sparked a flame of recognition and hope within you, give it a like to spread this message of liberation and help others find their own path to freedom. Subscribe to the channel for more insights on mastering your relationships and your mind, ensuring you continue to build upon this foundation of strength and self-awareness. And most importantly, in the comments below, declare your declaration of independence. What is one boundary you will set, or one step you will take this week to reclaim your power? This isn't just a comment. It's a commitment, a public affirmation of your newfound resolve. Your journey to confident, unmanipulated living starts today with that conscious choice, that single brave step towards the dawn of your own freedom.